Welcome everyone to the Volpe Creates Show, the weekly talk show where we talk about video games, game development, and the games industry. I'm your host, Chris Volpe, joined as always by Baby. And also Lucas. How are you doing?
Doing swell. Excited to start this.
Lucas is our intern / showrunner who's been helping get the show going, doing all the fancy transitions and everything. So always exciting to have you, good sir.
Just excited.
Got all the heavy computation out of the way before we started.
Yeah. And every week I like to bring on a special guest. So my guest this week is Thomas Allenbaugh, partner and lead programmer at Multivarious. Been responsible for numerous projects. You've been in the game industry almost a decade now. Kind of crazy to believe, huh?
Halfway to a decade, yeah. It's about getting it. This be year 8, year 9, year 10. I guess it is a decade. Shoot.
You came on in 20. Yeah, you came on in 2014, I think, right? So I think what are we, 8 years? If that's how math works, which I think it does. Oh, am I still there? Can you hear me, Lucas?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I saw on Discord, I saw Tom's image freeze. I didn't know if it was on my end. I think I need to, just for the audience out there, my cat chewed through both the power cord and gnawed on the fiber cord for my fiber modem. So between the two of those, I'm not sure if I can trust my router, but we'll keep on forging ahead for as long as it's to work. But Tom, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. This is sort of last minute, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it should be fun. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm ready for anything.
Oh, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. No, mostly we're just going to kind of chit chat about the games industry. We're going to talk about you and why you got to the games industry, and then if there's anything get on the Twitch chat, feel free to ask questions. Game design, making a game company, game startups, anything you want, we will answer them as they pop up. So first off, Tom, you are a programmer, I think that's what they call you.
That's what they call me.
Yeah. So what got you into programming? Like, why programming of all things? Because you sort of came in, you graduated from OSU, but you came out with a sort of video game bent, right? It wasn't a full quote unquote video program.
Right.
But
right.
Why programming? Why video games?
Yeah. Actually, that's something that I just had to kind of come to myself. I didn't originally, like, I guess, when I was really young, I loved video games. Like my grandma had a regular Nintendo, and we go play Mario and Contra, and yeah, she had Contra too. She's a sweet old lady. I don't know what she was doing with Contra. That might have been my older half brother is doing. But I got to play Contra, Mario, Snake, Rattle, and Roll, for those people who know what I'm talking about.
Nice.
And I don't know. Yeah, I just was always nerdy, always getting into computers. But my interests were more like, I don't know, I really liked history. I was good at persuasive writing in high school, so I was like, yeah, I'll study history. You can kind of turn that into a law thing. Do a lot of writing all day, and make
what is
persuasive arguments.
writing? You just gotta convince people to do stuff.
Yeah, write an essay that kind of like a debate without just kind of a one-sided piece of writing. But I just had high school teachers tell me that I was good at that, and they kind of pushed me towards mock trial, and I did a lot of mock trial in high school, and so I was kind of, I did played expert witness 3 years, and then they were like, I could be varsity expert witness or I could be junior varsity lawyer, and I was like, I'll go the junior varsity lawyer, give that a spin. It was really fun. I think I did pretty well. We made it to regionals. And at regionals, I managed to leave my entire binder at home with the entire case in it, all of my notes. So I actually did regionals completely off memory, just like and the judges remarked on they were like, that is really cool. It's like you just had everything in your brain, you were ready to go. And I'm like, I was sweating bullets. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna look like a complete idiot up here. But they gave me props. They said I did really well. Like we didn't win, but like they said it was like an honorable mention that I didn't use my notes, and I was like, sometimes just being addle brain can get you ahead.
Yeah, an
But
honorable mention that you forgot
yeah,
something. Yeah, nice.
yeah.
Well
So
done.
got to OSU and was kind of kicking on the history track a little further, but I was still interested in STEM, and I always like I didn't like take the hardest classes in high school for like math and science, but I always like in college, in the history track they're like, oh, you only need to take 2 semesters of math, and I like you can have like an elective beyond that, and I for some reason I was getting my just face beaten in by calculus every semester, so I was like persevered and decided to take Calc 3. Uh, like, but it all started because in freshman year I tried like programming for non-majors elective. It was like a Java class where you just learn how to write loops and functions, and they really take it from the very beginning and like here's how to set up the environment, and here's just literally the earliest possible pieces. And I was like right off the bat I was being like, oh, I know how to write a conditional statement. Now I can write a really long text-based adventure game where I just keep track of your stats through the entire block. Like every single decision is a giant if else like block, and I like progress the story because you get out of that one, you're into the next one. And I just copied because it was like a text-based game where you could waste time. So like you could do things that wouldn't change what was going on. You're in a helicopter, so I give you like a dozen rounds before the helicopter crashes and try to escape. And I'm like, you can look for like a parachute, which is not guaranteed. It's like random. You could get the helicopter instruction manual, which this is all text based. So you're just typing like, look, like trying to find anything to help you. And then
Sure.
it's like, oh, you found the parachute. Oh, you found the instruction manual. If you find the parachute, then you can. I put in all these ways you could mess up. So if you find the parachute, you can jump out. But if you didn't put it on first, and you deploy it, then it just flies away from you and you die. Or like if you deploy it before you jump, it gets tangled up in the helicopter and you die. And then the other route was like finding the book. What I did with that was if you don't read it at all and you try to land the plane, I think it's a guaranteed failure. But if you spend some turns like just flipping through it, you increase your odds. And if you can get like, I think it's like if you can get 5 or 6 turns of like reading the book, then your odds are actually pretty decent to land the thing. But it's all luck based. You have to find it in the first place and then start reading it and like
Sure. Do you still have
and
this game?
yeah, it's in my like Google Drive from a million years ago. It was the first thing I ever wrote like that was like a Java executable that wasn't literally a class assignment.
Yeah.
Because I think they would just like write like a guessing game, and then it's like, oh, a text-based game is just a few more steps beyond one of those basic guessing games. So it just took off from there, and I was like, oh, I gotta change my major now and spend an extra year at college because like the first year was largely not contributing. Um, and the catching up on the math that you would normally be on top of when you decide to do a computer engineering degree
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
kind of a struggle because again I was like high school, everybody pushed me towards the writing and the humanities, and so that's just what I did the most of. And then switching over to math, and it's like you have to really take the rigorous approach, and where there really are right and wrong answers, and oftentimes there's a lot of right and wrong answers. Kind of like writing, like you can write a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean,
a lot of good books, and
I
you
feel
can
like
write a
in
lot of bad
programming
books.
in programming you've got sorry, my cat. It's if anybody's wondering what I'm doing when I do that, I'm playing fetch with my cat. She brings me the Starbucks stopper, the green thing, and then I throw it and she goes and gets it, and then she hopefully doesn't claw my feet, but sometimes she claws my feet.
Waiting for the next throw and getting impatient. The
So I've
cats
got my
love the
two.
fetch when they're fetching
She
cats. They love
she
fetch.
loves these things. These Starbucks stoppers are like her favorite toy. So I just throw
Woo.
it downstairs into the basement, and she goes barreling down, and then
Good
brings
exercise.
it over to me. Anyway, what I was saying was that I feel like programming is one of those things where it's like you got to be there's a rigor and a rigidity to it, but there's also like an artistic flow to it as you're using language, a computer language,
Mhm.
to solve problems.
Right.
So I mean, I can see how the two could be very similar to you as a interesting direction, like as a series of almost thought experiments, I guess.
There's and programming is where we take these universal laws, like just the laws of math, laws of physics that we know, and we combine it with human intuition and human symbolism. I mean, the any programming language has like designed in a certain way to because a certain kind of human brain thought that it would make sense to do it this way. Like the problem is getting everything lined up for the computer, and there's so many ways to approach that, so many different brain types out there trying to solve it. um yeah, it gets very creative, and it is hard to mesh because then people with really pure STEM brains might get a little too rigid in the way they approach problems. And I really want to know, like, in a lot of cases it helps me to know the historical context for like a system or a language. Just kind of go dig into the Wikipedia, like, when did they start working on this, like, why did they add stuff, to
You mean to
teach.
like help understand why it even exists? Like
Yeah,
what
that was a
problem
big
were they
part of
trying
my.
to solve that got it to here?
Yeah, that's, I guess, even if it's just for like my motivation and interest in the thing, to like get me to like just pay closer attention to the language or appreciate it more. It always helps me to just, who wrote this and why and when, and what were they, why this instead of just using something else that already existed. Um, and at this point, we're all lucky. We're here sitting on this mountain of, everybody has solved so many of the really basic problems now. So you can come in as a beginner to the industry and be like, all right, I can actually. It's possible now. You can just come in with ideas, and there's probably a system that will let you just build that as is, like, without having to like know a heck of a lot about how it works. So I think when I was in college, I mean, it's already was kind of beyond that, where we've already, I 2009 to 2014 was, we were already pretty much in like modern technology, like, game engines exist, web frameworks exist that are really solid and stable. So
Sure.
but it's
But I
also
mean,
still transitioning.
we
Like,
were in the early days of Unity. Like the Unity when we started this shindig was nothing like the Unity
right. Well,
today.
and it was competing in a field where CryEngine and Unreal were
Mm,
charging $500,000 for any use of their software.
yeah.
That and
Yeah.
and
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about it anymore, but that's how Unity became Unity. So for those listening, Unity is a game engine, um, and the two big ones right now are Unity and Unreal. There's lots of smaller ones, some indie ones pop up every so often, but yeah, when we started in 2012, 2013, Unity was just kind of becoming a thing because there was no access to like good quality game engines that didn't require licensing. So to license Unreal, it could cost $500,000. But you'd also see games like BioShock was made in Unreal. I think Gears of War was. A bunch of larger games. They obviously take Unreal and then kind of rejigger it how they need to for whatever they're doing. But that's where Unity kind of came in. So you've been with the the growth of Unity as a product since almost the beginning. You've seen it grown, and I think
right. We were here for their big. We were kind of deciding, like, they were among our potential platforms during the time when they initially made their big pushes to get to just be like, hey, everyone can use this for free. Now what? And then, and then CryEngine, promptly shriveled up and died, and Unreal kind of became what it is now, which is like, they've had to up their professional code quality and make it more approachable because, if you have
as
to
a
sit there
reaction
and
to what Unity was doing.
yeah,
Unreal, Epic and Unreal saw the trend. I mean, good for them. They saw that the market for game devs, just small studios and individuals who really wanted to make games, was growing and becoming a thing. And so they had to respond to that. Otherwise, Unity has a pretty big hold on the market. I shouldn't say a hold on the market, but a big footprint in the market. But now, CryEngine isn't really around anymore.
yeah. I mean, Unity was when I took my game dev capstone at OSU. Unity was just one of the choices. It was like on a platter with, I think, Ogre 3D, Panda 3D, and Unity, and by I could tell, like, my class in 2014, or I guess late 2013 was I remember in the class we were like Professor Crawfus remarked, like, oh, this is like probably after this class we're probably just gonna have Unity be the default. So I was kind of there when they were making some of those decisions, and I'm not actually sure what the state of OSU's game dev course is, but yeah, like my track was pure computer science and engineering, so it was an engineering degree with a heavy emphasis on like physical fundamental like literally like getting down to the metal and like understanding how to potentially piece together a computer system from scratch if you really need to. And I was attracted to that because the same way that I'm kind of like that I thought a history degree was like a good way to get into law. It's like, you don't need to know the stack for it to work, but if you do, why. It just answers a lot of the questions and makes programming languages a lot more approachable because you've seen the core underlying reality that they all have to reckon with, and the information science theories and
what is that reality?
Oh, just
it's all craziness,
binary,
and we're trying
that it's all just a huge list of switches of ones and zeros. Like
humanity's trying to conform the universe into what we want.
The most complicated program that exists is still like just boils down to a single number. Like there's a number that represents what the computer would, took all the ones and zeros and lined them up, and that number is that program in its entirety. It's just a single number, and it's all contextual. It's like, you're abusing kind of some of the properties of reality to like pack data in and like make decisions and have a bunch of switches actually result in behavior that's bigger than any of the individual, just like the neurons in the brain. I mean, one neuron can't do anything, but you pack a brain with like billions of them and trillions of connections, and we're all talking here on the internet because it all lifts itself over its underpinnings. And my favorite classes were the information science, like how much information can you actually pack, and like can you prove stuff. Like some of the computer forensics is like really cool, and it's only getting really like now that crypto and Bitcoin and everything, computer forensics is like one of the hottest things now. So all the computer crimes happening everywhere, and that
Yeah.
could have been an alternate path, be a computer cop and computer lawyer.
Computer cop. Oh man, we should totally make Computer Cops the show. Computer Law and Order.
Computer law and order.
Um,
I guess
yeah.
that would be my ideal like position someday. It's like if my brain's too slow to code anymore, I can at least like go and be like help out, shovel out the mess of like just all this new technology interacting with all of our like ancient laws and human institutions. Like we're moving so fast, and I think a lot of people are getting into keeping it moving to keep the money going. But at some point we're gonna have to like figure out how it all fits and what's sustainable, and that's a big questions. But I'm here to make games right now, and
Yeah,
hopefully once
that's
we make some fun games, I'll be well positioned to help out with that problem.
yeah, my background is in healthcare, and legacy systems are a huge issue. Just you've got all of these databases that are running on stuff from 20, 25 years ago.
Right.
But in
Well, it's
order to
like,
like you kind of just been building on top of them decades, stuff out
mhm.
is almost
Yeah, and
so so
you're
games.
cutting
Why
out a little
games
bit.
then? Why games?
Um, well, I think it's sort of maybe it's because I came into this from a humanities perspective, but I just think it's it's so much more multi-dimensioned than typical software engineering. Like, I could go work for a bank, like, and work on a widget for their website, and oftentimes we do get close to that kind of thing just to pay the bills. But like, with a game, you've got to have all the same required discipline, technical expertise, but you also get that creative. You can touch people. Like you can, if you're making just general business software, I guess you can make someone's day better. You can make their transaction more efficient. But a game, you can change someone's mind about anything. It's a very just multimedia, same as movies and books. Just it can influence the culture. It can help shape where we as a species are deciding to go. Um, because we're all the next generations keep coming, and they're
That's what
growing
I
up
hear. Yeah.
on more and more sophisticated media. And I think it's important that you know the games are a central place in just the future of media and culture, because you can't even approach like books can approach because you get the imagination is such a rich environment, and you can you also get to impress your own kind of thoughts and feelings on the book more, because all the book has is like literally the words, and those are going to get filtered by your brain, and your sensibilities and personality. With the game, that can happen too, but there's audio and visuals there to kind of reinforce the artist's intent.
Sure.
Uh,
I I've said numerous times that I think video games are the next storytelling medium humanity.
yeah.
Just like, you know, imagination into spoken music, movie. It's a it's a whole new thing because video games every art form is like some variant of, you know, but
Mhm.
they become increasingly active as you video games. You know, music is active in the sense that you're sort of imagining and processing. Same with movies, but movies are very like structured. You only see what they choose to show you.
Mhm.
You move at the speed in which they um, decide to move,
Mhm.
uh, and so you're it's a passive medium in that sense where you put in a movie, you press play, and if you fall asleep, video games don't work. Video games are
Mm.
is it my internet or is it the sound? I'll turn up the gain, which I was instructed to turn down.
Oh,
Is that better?
it's not Discord like trying to be fancy about background suppression. It's
I don't
just
know. I've got so many things going on. It's a cat attacking my push through the day.
No, yeah, we got the gist though, like just the fact that with the movie you're stuck with whatever they showed you, and it however that affected you, you kind of just have to walk away, and like the movie was what
Yeah,
it is. With a game, if you don't like how something went, in many cases you can go back and try it again or try something
sure.
else.
But as the
Um,
creators, we have to account for all of that, right?
mhm,
Like you ultimately any piece of art, you only get what the creator shows you develop the and that's just how it goes.
mhm,
But with games, we try intentionally to account for things, different ways a player could play, different directions they could look, how they interact with one. Do they talk to one play character, kill one player character, or whatever?
mhm.
And I think
Yeah,
that really opens up um, opportunities for really interesting sort of ways. I use the term empathy generator. I think games are about kind of creating that emotional connection in a unique way,
right. I've
which is
got
really
like
cool.
there's two kind of connectors I can make to that. One is that we've already seen them influence the movie industry for those exact reasons. Like, we've seen, only some, I guess, you've got games like movies like Hardcore Henry and stuff where it's like, we're going to actually be like, this is a movie if in the style of a game. And you're like seeing everything in first person, and it's just very action heavy and kind of ridiculous like a game tends to be because you don't need to with a game you can spawn as a million enemies and you don't have to pay extras to come and be cannon fodder for you. And the
Sure.
other the, o- the other connector is like the with the whole choosing like representing like creators intent in a game, like um yeah, like think like the choose your own adventure book is the closest like thing that we've gotten. Like the artist can define some variation, and you can have a more like a story that you're happier with than maybe one of the other branches. And then obviously like even games can't really get close to, I guess the true ideal is like the tabletop role playing game, which is the ultimate combination of interactivity and imagination and like creativity. But games are getting so close these days because again, it's the buildup of systems. Like
Yeah.
we have games that can educate D&D rules, almost all of them, like almost all the rules that the D&D book would have, and like all the physical limitations and interactions with space and stuff.
Sure.
Like
Let me ask you a question because you kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, tangentially, but like, let's say games are this next wave of media, and it's going to be the next thing, the next movies, or whether that's video games or whatever's in this box. I think we have a terminology issue because we refer to them as games, which automatically I think associate a lower level of importance. You know,
mm,
like children play games, but games
right,
aren't important. Real work is important, but movies are considered important, and music is considered important, and sports are considered important. But
hmm,
like, they're no different as a disambiguation of like thought than games are, right? Like tennis is just two people hitting a ball in the net, which if you were to explain to somebody outside the context of sports, you'd be like, why are you doing that? Like,
right,
that's no different. That's no different than a playground, right? You have a
right.
ball and two sticks. So do we need to change the term of games so to create a different way of explaining the experience we're attempting to create, or do we just try to drag the rest of the world into keep games and try to drag the rest of the world into
Hmm.
understanding that as a level of importance? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have been trying to find like you see a bigger push these days to I'm not making a game, I'm making an experience, or I'm not making a game, I'm making like a simulator. Just try to yeah. I see a lot of people getting away from the
But
game
but
definition. Maybe
does that solve a problem? Or like,
yeah, I don't think it
remember when we
does.
do client work stuff, and like a lot of times, when we were doing investing, trying to get some seed money for the business, a lot of conversations were like, because I mean, typically in the past, about 75% of our stuff has been in the healthcare space that we develop. And people are always like, well, why don't you call it games for healthcare or educational experience? Why do you say you're a video game company? I'm just like, because that's what we are. But
Hmm.
the whole point of that conversation, and I don't think they were intending to do this, but the whole point of the conversation was that the term video game implies childishness and not real business. So, but healthcare is real business. So if
Hmm.
we call it experiences for healthcare, then all of a sudden it's real, which is really just a marketing thing, right?
Yeah. It's either
Uh,
real or people are worried about is this software gonna do its critical job. It's like if we said like games for airplane nervous about that. But it's like the thing. Yeah, it is. The problem is that the games denote the childishness of the activity, and it masks the fact that creating one is a superset of all of the skills you would need to do anything else. So, like
yeah,
the
it's far
products.
more difficult than a lot of. I don't want to make an unnecessary comparison. This isn't a competition, right? But like
Mhm.
the nature of what we have to develop in the game space can be as challenging, if not more challenging, than traditional enterprise apps, you know,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why games are on the forefront of technology, because we're the ones developing everything. We're the ones who
Mhm.
create microtransactions and app stores and real time networking communication protocol,
Right.
like all of that stuff comes from games, because we're always like, wouldn't it be cool if 100 people could play in the same game world from across the world all at real time, and be like, that would be cool. And then you got to figure out how the hell you're going to do it, right?
Right.
Which is a big,
But then,
if I don't know if you ever read Masters of Doom about the creation of id Software, but that was a big thing that they had to figure out. Like John Carmack and the team, they're like, how do you keep everybody's scenario exactly the same when they're
hmm
playing over dial-up modems from across the
hmm
country? And they had
yep.
to find these like little tricks. And a lot of those internet protocols are still the basis of what we still use today, Like Doom
Yeah.
created that.
Yeah. I guess you could almost compare it to like what the military does for technology. We're like trying to
Sure.
be the opposite source of innovation.
Well,
And
I
also
did. There's a funny joke where the three biggest sectors for technological innovation um, is the military, video games, and the porn industry. Those
yeah.
are always the three that are like at the cutting edge trying to figure stuff out.
hmm I mean, movies have a lot to thank for the third thing there, and like the movie making industry in general. I grew up with it from the beginning, and like with games, yeah, you're right. Like it's like a lot of these tech problems were solved in the name of gaming, and like just look at any Android phone, you're getting all of your apps through the Google Play Store, which
Yeah,
it just has games, the idea of games baked into it. And you've got on iOS side, plenty of developers use the Google Play Center even if it's not a game, just because it's like there's the account system for you. They made that handy account system and like seamless data like cloud sync because of gaming, and now all the other things can benefit from it. Yeah, just drives innovation, and again, it's like touches people. Like, we can bring it full circle. My interest in history was driven by my love of history games like Age of Empires and Rome Total War and Europa
sure.
Universalis and all the other like historical real time strategy games. So like,
So
they
should we just keep it as games then? We don't need to rename it.
I don't see why. And there's so many cultural things built off of the fact that we've been calling it games at this point, like the the Greek Ludo, and like we bake that into all kinds of things. And we'll see, like, because right now we've got Facebook trying to go meta and turn the whole internet into like a VR chat game. We saw that kind of come in, like Ready Player One, the last 5 years or so of just the seeing the ramp up, the curve is accelerate on the tech that's out there. New languages like Rust that allow you to make really distributed systems that can be concurrent. So you could spin something up in Rust and have like the two sides are completely independent, but if one of them calls something that relies on the other, the system automatically knows how to make sure that they're always in alignment through that whole. They raised it above what I learned in school, which is like, here you're going to learn a language, and here's the patterns and practices to make sure you're not uh, getting out of sync or causing like weird categories of bugs. And now there's languages that just take care of that for you. If you work in
Yeah.
that language, you can make a highly distributed system that will never have any kind of race condition or like. And that's just amazing, and that's just going to explode multiplayer gaming, especially just in time for the intense graphical requirements of VR, and just all that extra computational overhead just to give you a compelling experience.
Do you
It
think we'll
doesn't
get to
even.
the point? People have been talking about this for a while. We're already seeing some like AI tech where AI technologies can make songs or write papers or whatever. And there's been talk about, well, we might be able to simplify the game making process enough that like a quote unquote common person might be able to do it. Do you think that's possible? Or do you think there's just too many variables, too many layers of complexity
It's
to
really
do that?
It's really fascinating. There's actually um me and my roommates were kind of playing around. There's a system that has been developed, I think by Google. I want to, or like some kind of Google experiment or something. But what it is it's a machine learning algorithm that they have basically wired up to the entirety of GitHub and like Stack Overflow and like all the like common message boards where people post code snippets and be like, this isn't working, and then somebody posts like a working code snippet. They've written a machine learning system where you say what you want. We've seen this. I think we saw this years ago with we were having fun with Wes about this, but like there's systems where you can describe a scene that you want. Like there's a table and there's a banana on the table and the banana is green and the chair has a ball on it, and you know you can like kind of lay it out, and we've had systems that can kind of composite scenes based on descriptions. But now like these new, and the one I'm thinking of in particular, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but they have it hooked up as a SaaS. So if you give it requests, then it charges you for the time it's taking to like crawl over everything. But it's something you can literally go to the system and be like, I want a I want a program that counts from 1 to 20, and it'll spit out like, or you say in Java, and it'll spit out your Java outer layer and give you the while loop from 1 to 20 and print, and it will give you the print line. And you know the, and all it's doing is like comparing your question to like GitHub and Stack Overflow texts and looking for likely code snippets, and then just arrange like kind of like a script kiddie, like the ultimate script kiddie. Like you went up to somebody who doesn't know anything about actually programming, but they know where to find like code, and you're just like, I need something that'll do this, and then just go crawl through and grab blocks of code and just kind of tape
Mm-hmm.
it together for you. That's going to make things really, that's going to add a new dimension of approachability if that can get into the hands of regular people. Because right now it's
Yeah.
like an open source, you have to compile this thing and then it's able to talk to the server, and they've got it all
Yeah.
locked down proprietary, of
That's
course.
nuts. Have you seen the we're getting a little tight on time, but have you seen it's like a painting program where like you paint like blobs of color and then the application transforms that into painting like a landscape. So you're like, I want this to be rocks, and like all you're seeing is like blobs of green, but like the system puts it together in a way where like the rocks form, and if you start painting over more, the rocks will like reform. So it just looks like rocks on the ground, and you're like, what is
That's
this
amazing.
witchcraft?
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
They call
insane.
it
It's
they
insane.
call it the Bob Ross bot or something like.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I can't remember what it's called. I was looking at it the other day, and like, yeah, people were like painting these landscapes,
That's
mountains. We're gonna
awesome.
put snow on the mountains, but like,
Yeah.
it's all interpolated from just layered colored blobs.
I
Like if you
think
were just
I
using like a Photoshop brush and painting blob.
I think that's really the key is like we have AI systems that are really sophisticated. I mean, we have them doing healthcare, telemedicine. We have them doing, your car awareness radar tracking for like oncoming
Hmm.
obstacles and everything. We have things like this. Like we've had 3D generators and 2D painting landscape. The AI is great at correlating data and being like, if you especially if you have a proper machine learning algorithm and you train it, that's really great at correlating data and kind of giving you like new, slightly different mixes on that. So I'm thinking like, it'll be sort of like a thing where you just have like the engine gives you like a companion AI. If you don't know exactly how to get what you want, you can like ask it to get you part of the way there or to solve like a particular edge of the problem. Like I could definitely, coming from pure programming, are the error detection and the ways that languages help you prevent errors in the first place.
Yeah,
I can easily see one of these AIs getting rigged up to just be like the ultimate, like, you got an error, here's where it came from, like just bridge that gap. And I can also see it being like, with the creatives to be like, AI to be
those
like,
those creatives,
yeah.
they're
Well,
the worst.
AI in the creative space, a lot of AI is used for copyright, like or DRM, and I think
Yeah.
it gets a bad rap because to talk to an artist about going high tech, and they're like, "Oh, you're about to talk to me about NFTs or something." But like, if you had an AI companion that's like, you know, helps you over a bit of writer's block or artist's block, or it's like, "Hey, you're making this thing, it's great. I noticed there's something else that's really, really, really close to what you're making, and thought you should know that you may accidentally be um
Yeah. So I
just
got
that
a
kind of thing to, yeah.
just because I want to be quick, but I got a question. If you can answer quickly, it's
Oh,
about someone who wants to develop in Unity games in Unity. Should they learn C sharp or Python first?
yeah. Well, I guess it really depends on what they've done before. Like, if you've never programmed at all, I might say Python will be a better or friendlier place to start. I would like play around with Python. I wouldn't try. You can get Python to run in Unity. Like any language system can technically be used by any other if you make like a plugin or do the wrapping work to hook it up. But I think Python would be, if you have no experience at all, Python is a better way to like uh, pick up really basic coding basics. Once you feel like you can spit out some function or like have something where you can run it and it spits something out at you, and you're kind of used to. The thing about Python as an introductory language is C# is going to be more rigorous about everything, and there's also, I would say I would recommend it over learning C# in a vacuum because so much of the Unity space is like, most of the time you don't really care about C# itself. You just care how Unity is built around it. And when you make a script in Unity, it gives you the starting blocks and it gives you like your basic start and your update function that you can make stuff start working. So if you understand enough to get things kind of coming up on screen in Python, then you'll be able to get into Unity and like you'll be like, okay, this script corresponds to this object. So these, when I hit play, it's gonna make this come to life, and whatever code I put in here is gonna get injected. Because Python's really just here it is, write whatever you want
Okay.
from scratch, and Unity just gives you so much of a foundation that you really don't have to think about C# itself until you're like beyond what Unity does for you for free, and you're digging
Yeah.
into like libraries so you can get this thing running at 30 frames per second in production or something. Then you start getting into C# itself and optimizing the heck out of everything. But that would be my
Okay.
recommendation. If you no experience Python, if you have coded before, there's nothing wrong with just jumping in. Um,
Okay.
don't get too wrapped up in C# itself. Just kind of understand this is a function. Maybe look into like um, just kind of get a Unity project open and start making something that
Sweet.
just transform.position.x equals 5.
Tom,
Plus
we
equals
are
5.
at the end of our time together here, but it's last. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, this was fun.
Is there anything that you want to tell the audience? Where can they follow you anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, you can all. I mean, I'm always hanging around the multivarious spaces. I'm always at GDEX when that happens. I'm an admin at the Central Ohio Game Dev Group, so especially if you're in the area, even if you're not, we welcome. We have our jams. We have international jams, and
And
we
that's COG, COGG. It's
COGG.
thecog.com. So if you go
Hmm.
to thecog.com, you can sign up, and it's free community group. Lots of people from students to professionals that have been in the industry for decades. So it's a cool
Yeah,
community.
yeah, it's where we got our start. Really, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it was the soil that we sprouted from. So,
Yeah.
and then the other way, I guess, would be to enroll at Columbus State and take the game dev capstone course. Then you'll get a lot of time with me.
Awesome, Tom. Well, thank you very much. Lucas, how you doing? And anything on your end you want to talk about?
We're gonna have to sub this whole episode.
Yeah.
Punch in
Awesome.
all the subtitles for Chris's.
Well, Tom, thank you again for being here. I appreciate it. I'm sure I'll have you on in the future. This
Yeah,
has been the
anytime.
Volpe Creates Show for what day is this? February 4th, 2022. I am Chris Volpe. Thank you for being a part of it. Tom, thank you again. Lucas, of course, thanks to your capable hands, the show is running. I would pull baby up in front of the camera, but she is now napping
Aw.
desk, so we'll let her
And you
get
pull
her sleep.
Pumpkin up, and she'd probably crawl all over you and scratch you up.
She's actually being a good girl. It's a moment of respite. But thank you, everybody, and we take care.
Nope. We'll be back, or whatever you said when you got cut.
Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next time.